All right. All right, so you're going to come into a seated position. And I usually like to sit on something. If you have a blanket, you could sit on one, but it helps you sit up a little bit taller. And just take some time to find your way onto the sitting bones, so the really pointy bones in your butt. Usually that means by sitting forward a little bit more than you normally do. And then roll your shoulders back, and then keeping your shoulders back, bring your hands together in front of your heart. And close your eyes and just look toward your cheeks, which invites your brain to become more quiet. And maybe for the first time today, starting to pay attention to the breathing, to what's happening inside of you, noticing with more awareness what's happening around you. And just take a moment here to replace any judgment upon yourself with just a simple curiosity. There's no wrong answers when we do yoga. We don't discover anything bad. It's all good. It's all fine and perfect. So just give yourself this moment to arrive, to settle in, to become more present. And see if you can keep your chest lifted as you bow toward your heart. And release your hands. On an in-breath, raise your head, let your eyes come open. And welcome, friends. So we're going to start with a supported downward facing dog. So you can use a block. You might throw one of your blankets over the block so it's not so hard of a surface. And the best kind of position for the block when you prepare for dog toes is to make sure the block is kind of inside the space of the elbow creases. So you can set yourself up on your hands and knees with the block kind of right under your face and maybe the blanket thrown on top of it. And as you feel ready, you'll curl your toes underneath and just bring yourself into the pose. And you kind of want to adjust the spacing between the hands and feet so that you don't have to bend your arms to be here. So you might have to make the pose a little bit bigger or more spacious than it usually is. And with the head support, you'll find you can stay a little bit longer. So in restorative practice, we do have to use physical effort, but all of the poses are designed to be quieting to the brain. So as you hold yourself in a certain amount of physical effort, see if you can eventually drop into that quieter side of the pose, where you're relating to the pose kind of more passively, more like the objective observer, just like when you began in your seated position. Try to support your wrists by lifting your hips up and taking the hips back. And you may decide you want to wake your legs up a little bit by pumping the heels down individually. Always exploring your practice, making it your own as you stay tuned in to your own body. And if you need to come down and take a break, you'll take a child's pose, but we are going to stay about another minute. So feel free to come into a child's pose as you need to.
And if you decide that you're going to stay in child's pose, that's fine. Otherwise, come back into dog pose. And in dog pose, we're attempting to keep our legs straight, opening the backs of the knees, extending the toes forward as we draw the heels down, and compacting the legs from front to back. And as you feel ready, you're gonna come down with your knees wide and sit back. Take your hips as far back as you can and place your forehead either directly down or onto that block. And of course, the shape of the pose in child's pose is one single curve from your brainstem to your tailbone. So make sure the very tip of the tailbone points down. And let your breath not only extend your spine, but spread along the back body and between the back ribs. So we're going to start to kind of slither or slide. We're coming into a prone position on our stomachs. You can slide yourself forward. We're going to come into Sphinx pose. So take a moment to just kind of rock back and forth so that you're centering your legs. So you want to feel that your kneecaps are down and that your small toes are sitting down as much as your big toes are, and that your feet are at least as wide as your hips. And then put your elbows right underneath your shoulder line with your palms up. And just kind of scrub the mat with your arms so you're bringing your chest more forward and your elbows slightly farther back. And then take the tip of the tailbone again into the floor. And once you feel a certain sense of spreading across your chest, rotate your palms down and try to anchor the inner wrists down. So the work of the pelvic tilt to keep the lower back long and to keep the chest lifted and spread. Try to unhinge your jaw of any tension. And let the belly press against the floor with each in-breath. It supports the spine to extend. And now we're going to take a little bit of a more restful and quiet version. So you're going to step the elbows forward, take your hands to prayer pose, and rest your forehead against your thumbs. And think about rolling your small toes down and lifting the inner thighs up. Keep the tailbone moving into the floor. And again, allow the belly to press into the floor so that we're opening the posterior spine, the back of your spine. And we're sending the breath into the back body. The prone position right now is a very important discovery they're making with the respiratory issues people have. And so supporting yourself to breathe belly down is a really good thing for the lungs, for the lung health. And now we're going to let this go, the lower back kind of held for a long time. So just cross your forearms and rest your cheek on your arms like a little pillow. And then bend your knees and sweep the legs back and forth, windshield wiper legs, to clear away tension from your lower back. And now we're going to extend the legs again and roll onto your left hip side. And if that's not the side you can see me with, then you'll turn around. Good. So you're on your left hip side, and whatever you found to work for your strap, you're going to use that now. And take hold of your right ankle. With your left hand, hold that strap and drag your leg so it's perpendicular from your left leg. Good. And now you're going to let your right shoulder fall down to the floor. Try to keep that right leg toward the shoulder line, even though it wants to pull away. So keep that right leg high. And allow your outer right rib cage to float back down to the floor. You can unfold your right arm completely out to the side if your shoulder allows. Otherwise, drape your right hand over your side body. Let your head either look straight up or look over to the right side. So twisting is one of the quickest ways to invigorate the spine and to refresh the energy in the body, tapping into a big juicy twist along the central axis. And now begin to bend the top leg knee and help yourself onto your back and unhook your strap. Just take a moment to center yourself on your back. Just be flat on your back. And then as you're ready, you'll shift over to lying down on your right side so that you can grab that left ankle. Once you have hold of that top ankle, just swing the leg out so that it's along the shoulder line and you're holding with your right hand, crossing the body. And we're going to try to allow the left shoulder line to descend toward the floor so that we're revolving the torso from right to left. And again, you can drape that left hand over the side body, extend the left arm out to the side, and either looking up or over to the left. Left would complete your twist. You can think about your spine from the brainstem to the tailbone in a complete twist if you're looking to the left. And just be passive on your right leg. Let it be soft and heavy. And every exhale, try to roll those outer left ribs back down to the floor. When you feel ready, start to bend the top leg knee. Help yourself onto your back. Help yourself come out of that strap. And just stay on your back with knees bent, feet wide. Let your knees come together. Drop your hands onto your belly. Just see if you notice any effects from your twist. As you're ready, you're going to slowly make your way to your side. And we're going to be coming into a standing forward bend. I think I saw that at least one of you has 2 blocks, but Avian Clover, you might not need them because you're closer to the ground. We're going to be taking standing forward fold with head support. So I know what my setup is. It's usually kind of this capital letter T version, but you might need something taller. So just kind of approximate what you think you'll need. And of course, I like to add a blanket for padding. And you're going to start with your feet hip distance, maybe a little bit wider. And just come down and place the head down. And you might notice you need to adjust your height. Good, I'm glad you're improvising with the things at home. So we definitely want to be on the top of the head so that the back of the neck is long. And if you have excessive arm length, rest on the backs of your hands. It's a bit more passive for the shoulders. Do your best to extend your legs completely. And we tend to sink back into the heels here, so keep directing your weight toward your toes. And after a few moments, you might notice you could lower the height under the head. Don't make it a goal, but pay attention if you need to adjust down. Let's see if you can adjust down now, and if so, go ahead and do that. We'll stay another 30 seconds or so here. And just check back in with your legs. They may have started to bend on you, so just, again, try to extend the backs of the knees. Try to keep the weight toward the toes. Now gently start to lift the head and look forward. Bend your knees, take your hands onto your hips and come all the way up. Good. So we're going to go to a full-on wide forward bend. It looks like you were a little bit wide for the first version, so now you're going to go even farther. And because the feet are farther apart, we're closer to the floor, so you're not going to need as much height. So you can drop whatever you had down a level. But before you come down, make sure your toes are aligning in front of your heels, that your outer feet are drawing down, your inner arches are lifted, and again, your legs are straight, and we're going to try to keep our weight toward the toes. And just come forward and place your head. Again, we're looking for the top of the head to come into contact with your props. And just let the spine elongate. Let the skull just kind of float and dangle, suspended from the spine. The brain, of course, resting inside of the skull. Let the legs do the heavy lifting here so that the torso can really cascade forward and we can just be quiet in the brain. Good. And now gently lift your head. Place your hands and help your feet together, heels and toes, until you can come all the way up. Good. And then we can move our things out of the way because we're going to come into a balancing pose. And balancing poses are great because they help the mind to focus. I think I'm a little decapitated with my screen here, so I'm going to tip up. There we go. We're going to come into tree pose. And we're going to be taking the right leg up first. So step into your left foot and just draw your right leg up and clasp the shin. And as you clasp the shin, try to roll the outer right hip down. We're going to guide that right leg out to the side now. And now see if you can hold that leg there as you grab and place the foot into your tree pose position. So attempting to get the heel up nice and high. As you push the foot into the leg, make sure the leg is also pushing back into the foot.
And then extending your arms out to the sides with the palms up. Bringing the arms up overhead. And maybe sealing the hands together. Sometimes with balance not coming as quickly, we might keep our hands lower or even on the hips, or even do this pose with our backs against the wall. So it just is based on how steady you feel from day to day. And pick something to look at that's straight across the room on the horizon line so that we keep our spine kind of in a neutral place. Let's slowly begin to deconstruct the pose kind of in reverse order of the way you came in. Help the foot down and shake that standing leg out. And we'll come in the very same way on the left side. So placing the weight into the right foot, drawing the left shin up, the thigh into the body, and then taking just that left hand to guide the left knee out, grabbing hold of the ankle and placing the foot. Good. And really pressurize the leg into the foot into the leg. When you have the steadiness, extend the arms with palms up. And then bringing the arms up overhead and sealing the hands together. Locking in with something across the room, but then pulling your attention inside your body. Keeping your awareness really sharpened. Good. Nice work. Now release your arms, help your foot down. And step the feet together, legs together, and come into mountain pose. So put your shoulders right over your hips right over your heels, and close your eyes. And in mountain pose, take the weight into your heels more than the toes. Take your tailbone forward, take your buttocks forward, and press your front thighs back. And with each passing in-breath, lift and spread your chest. Good. So we're going to come down out of mountain pose. We're going to come to Pashimotonasana, which is the Western facing forward bend. So I usually recommend you sit on a blanket. So it's really nice to get your head on something in this pose. So if you have something you could kind of throw over your legs, that'll be nice for you. But if not, you could always just put a chair over your legs and rest your arms on a chair, kind of do it that way. Also, it's fine if your head is not supported, it's just a little less quieting. But before we come into the forward bend, just kind of lift the flesh out from underneath your buttock bones. And then press your hands down next to your hips and sit up nice and tall and really squeeze your legs against the floor. Good. Raise the arms. And on an exhalation, reach forward and grab for your feet. And place the forehead down if you can. If not, just try to find a nice smooth neckline. So this pose is considered one of the deeper forward bends, which means it's also one of the most quieting ones, potentially. And to keep us from becoming kind of sleepy or dull in this deeply quieting forward bend, keep your legs really active. So pressing them into the floor, pulling the toes toward you, flexing the feet, and kind of closing the little gaps behind the knees, behind the ankles. With each inhale, draw the trunk forward, draw the torso over the legs.
Couple more breaths. So to come out, just start by looking forward, lifting your head. Sweep the arms up, and as you breathe in, just kind of bring the torso up. And as you breathe out, lower the arms. And I can't see your legs. If you had anything on them, just take it off and give your legs a little shake. Kind of bounce them, make sure they feel kind of woken up. And we're going to shift into reclining bound angle pose. Thank you, that's good. So this is called butterfly pose in some circles, cobbler pose, but in yoga, it's bound angle. So the bottom of the feet are joined. And we're going to be reclining this pose, so it's nice to have something soft to run with the spine. So you could put a blanket behind you. And oftentimes the head needs more height than the spine, so you might add an additional little pillow at the top. If you put your legs in this shape and you're sensing tight hips, tuck something under your knees, because you want the legs to be completely passive. We don't want to hold the legs in space. We want them to rest and feel cradled. So you're going to lie down, and hopefully that blanket is giving your spine a nice little amount of support. It's helping you lift and spread your chest, and your shoulders are able to kind of drape around the sides of the blanket or the bolster. Make sure your head has enough support that your chin is tilted down. And unfold your arms so your palms are face up, which allows our shoulders to really begin to settle. This is one of the most graceful poses because once you set it up, it just continues to evolve. So you can kind of start to sense gravity settling your weight into the floor. The pose is naturally opening of the diaphragm, so our breath becomes more fulfilling, more satisfying. There's a big opening in the hips and the groins, the chest and the shoulders. And you don't really have to work for much of those benefits. So just enjoy being very passive here, very supported. In poses like this, we can really sense how much default tension we carry. And this is our chance to set it down. So each exhalation, sinking more of that weight, surrendering a bit more into the floor. And just run your attention along your entire body, top to bottom. Make sure to go out to the limbs as well. And just see where there might be some tension still lingering. Could be in your jaw, it could be in your forehead, your tongue, maybe in your eyes or deep behind the eyeballs, into the sockets even. So just become very curious about where the tension resides. And when you shine the light of attention on these parts of the body, oftentimes they simply let go. Another area of note is the lower abdomen, where we carry emotional tension. And if there's not a lot of movement there with the breath, that's a sign that there's some stuckness. And so you might bring a little additional effort into breathing into your lower abdomen, also breathing out from the lower abdomen. And we'll give ourselves another 5 or 6 breaths. You don't have to alter your breath in any way. Just observe your naturally passing breath as if you're watching waves on a shoreline, coming in and going back out. Now draw your knees together slowly with your fingertips. Widen the feet to the edges of your mat and just draw the hands to the abdomen and take a counter pose here for a few moments, just to relieve the groins and hips and transition with this little segue. And you're going to help yourself to either side of your body. And we're going to come into supported bridge pose. All you need for that is you could use anything. You can use a blanket. You can use a block. You could use a block and a blanket. But essentially, you just want to raise the height under the sacrum. So if you're setting up with a block and blanket, you'll probably want to set that up first and bring yourself onto it. And if you're just using a block, you can easily just slide a block underneath you when you're already lying down. So you pick how you're going to get there. And then you can also adjust the height of the block, of course, to raise the hips any amount. We have low, medium, and tall settings. You'll probably pick the low or the medium settings. And then keep your shins vertical. Keep your toes in front of your heels. Unfold your arms so that your palms are up, and don't let the arms go as wide as they want to. So kind of squeeze them in a little bit, which helps us get the shoulder blades up and the outer upper arms down. So this action really helps us lift the chest and bring the sternum closer to the chin, taking on that bridge shape. So there's a potential here to kind of hyperextend the low back. So take your tailbone toward the ceiling. And just be a little more active by stepping into your feet. This is a pose where the butt will try to take over. Our butt is hypertonic, and it likes to kind of be the powerhouse, but this pose really isn't about the butt. So step into your feet and just let the buttocks become soft. And try to keep your gaze pointed toward your cheeks. Keep the mind passive, focus on the breath. If you notice the mind slipping away, time traveling, just bring it back to the breath. We're going to do a series of poses from this position. So now we're going to come into a elevated reclining child's pose. So lift your feet one at a time and let gravity take over and drop your thighs towards your chest. And then you may also just add the addition of your hands over your shins. It depends if you want to go a little deeper or not. Keep your chin tucked into your chest. And encourage that singular curve along your spine from the brainstem to the tailbone. And now we're going to take it one step farther, extending the legs overhead. So this is called Vamukha Pashimotanasana. We did seated Pashimotonasana earlier. Vamukha means upward facing. So we're just putting the pose in a different orientation. And you might play with extending your arms overhead. Let gravity just kind of keep sinking those thighs toward your chest. Keep your chin tilted toward your chest. And this is a really nice pose for immune system because we're essentially bathing the thyroid gland with the gentle massage of the compression to the thyroid gland. So keep kind of snuggling your chin in toward your chest. And just a few more moments. Now to come out, you want to just kind of carefully, slowly bend the knees and bring the feet down one at a time. And then once your feet are both down, lift your hips and take the height out from underneath you. Just slide the block away, whatever else you might have there. Good. And now just come into a regular reclining child's pose, drawing the legs in and either hugging over the shins or behind the thighs. It's kind of a personal preference. We're going to kind of give our lower backs a sense of broadening now from this position. So you're going to use your hands outside the knees. And just kind of pressurize your hands outside the knees, but also pressurize your outer knees into your hands. So you're kind of isometrically moving here. As we clamp the knees, at the same time, we're broadening the lower back. Hopefully it's relieving and soothing to your lower back. Good. And go ahead and step the feet down. So we're going to come into figure 4, a little hip stretch. So with the feet down, raise the right leg. Yeah, you can come right into it too, but raise the right leg and toe out to get the rotation. Prop the ankle to the thigh, and then pick up your left leg and either catch back of the thigh or front of the shin. So our hips are really clever. I call them the octopus of the body. They're very good at escaping the deeper movements. And one trick they know is to widen the knee. So to go into a deeper hip stretch, actually bring your right shin kind of to the left so that the midpoint of your shin is directly in line with your breastbone. Essentially, we'll make the right knee in line with the hip one day. And with the next 5 or 6 exhales, just kind of hug the left leg toward you. And you might also include the action of using your right elbow to press the outer or the inner right knee away from you. Now this is a maybe. You might want to go deeper. It looks like you're pretty far along there. So you might see if you can hook the left elbow crease around the outer right ankle. And then if you've done that, I can't see because it's on your other side, you'll free the left leg to extend down. And now we're going to grab the hands together. Take your right hand to your left hand. Raise your head and see if you can hook your right arm behind your head. And try to anchor into your left leg. Sit forward enough you can unhook your head. Extend your right leg straight up by holding the back of your thigh. This is always important to do after hip work so that we don't rotate the knee. It's never the intention. We want to rotate the hip. And then once you've taken care of that right knee, step the right foot down and go into your left side. So crossing left ankle to right thigh. Picking up the right leg, either clasping the shin or behind the thigh. And maybe just taking a little bit of a moment to shift your whole left shin to the right. Stay for some exhalations. Just really investigating, kind of bringing attention to the tension that lives in the left hip space. combing through the tension with the breath. Not my saying, but it's a good one. And every time you squeeze the legs toward you, also squeeze the chin toward the chest. So it's a complete action, that singular curvature along the spine. And you can kind of tell at this point if it's a wise choice, if you're able to, if you're close with that inner elbow hooking the outer left ankle, if that's accessible, go ahead and do that. Extend your right leg, shake hands with yourself, and then see if you can hook that left arm behind your head. And really be more interested in anchoring your right leg here. Squeezing out the spaces between the right leg and the floor. Good. So it's kind of a reclining version of a pigeon pose. Sit forward enough to unhook the arm, let the head come down, and just extend the left leg straight out. Make sure to flex the foot and fully straighten the leg. Good. Go ahead and step down and extend both legs now. Okay, we're going to come into supine twist. So bend your knees and stretch your arms out wide to each side. And we'll pick up the right leg and cross the whole leg right over left. And then lift your hips and slide your left hip to the center of your mat and stack your right hip over it. So you're letting the lower half of you move to the left. Use your left hand against your right knee to support the legs. And then revolve your head and your torso to the right. And maybe at this point, close the eyes. Releasing tension where the body meets the floor, where the legs meet each other, and along the entire right side of your body, especially between your right shoulder and hip, your right hip and your right knee. Transition gently and slowly. When we come out of twist, we just want to be very intuitive. Move slowly. Don't do anything jarring to your back. And make sure to align yourself flat on your back before transitioning to the other side. So once you do come back, pick up the hips, drag them away from the shoulders, arrange your body symmetrically and spaciously, and then you can set up for second side by reaching the arms out. Crossing left leg over right leg. And lifting the hips enough, you can tuck the right hip under you and the left hip above. And just let the legs fall to the right. Take the right hand onto your top knee or thigh. And then roll your torso and your head to the left. Every time you exhale, the spine rings out a little bit more. We go deeper into that twist. And every time we inhale, we encourage length along the spine. And sense where you meet the floor, and don't just meet the floor, try to merge with the floor. Let the body sink into the floor. And where the legs meet, let the legs integrate. Let go of tension between the legs. And along the left side body, allow it to open up. And just kind of start to untangle yourself in very slow, gentle movements until you're back to center on your back. So we're going to take legs up the wall pose, and hopefully you guys have some wall space that you can use. And it's really done best, first of all, if you're not staring into light. So if you can dim the lights, if they're right overhead. Also, you want to have some sort of a padded surface under you, so a blanket is a good idea. And I like a little more thickness with the height under my lower back, so I always kind of double my blanket up. So it can be a little awkward getting into the pose. I usually recommend sitting sideways at the wall. And you're going to try to take your butt to the wall. So you kind of have to, it's like your butt is, you're trying to make a little butt print on your wall. So as your butt gets to the wall, then you're going to start to bring your torso down and swing your legs up. So you do have to orchestrate some different actions. One is to remain on that prop that you've set up, but also to get your butt as near to the wall as it's going to be able to go. And once you've achieved a legs up the wall position, unfold the arms, rock your head until your neck elongates, tilt the chin toward the chest. If you sense it's kind of waving in the air, put a prop under your head so you can angle the chin down. And then close your eyes and just trust that you're receiving a multitude of benefits in this pose. This pose is excellent for almost every system in the body, including the brain, including mental health, including the heart, including the lymph system, blood pressure, leg fatigue, circulation, the list goes on. So just trust this is a great lesson, you don't have to do anything to gain a multitude of benefits. Just simply be in this pose for the next 2 minutes, observing your breath, settling the body into the position, and letting the brain become more passive. It helps to point the gaze away from the brain toward your own cheeks. You might again bring attention to the lower belly. The movement there, maybe there's tension, maybe there's a lack of movement. And using gravity, allowing gravity to sink the lower belly toward the pelvis, toward the floor with each inhale. Imagine the belly like a hammock. And notice how this pose encourages an extension of your exhalation. So this pose also has a wonderful effect on the nervous system. As we extend the exhalation, we quiet the nervous system. You might come into a variation at some point, joining the feet, taking on that bound angle shape again. And if you have the space, you might also come into an Upavishta Konasana, a wide angle with your legs. And it's an interesting way to take the pose because gravity, again, is helping us open. We have this really nice effect with doing the pose in this orientation. Gravity elongates the inner thighs to the inner knees. If you've taken a variation, you can come back to both legs straight up the wall just for a couple more breaths. And to leave the pose, start to slide the feet down the wall by bending the knees and help yourself roll to either side. And we're going to be setting up now for final resting pose, which is a pose. Even though it's a pose of passivity and stillness, we want to treat it like a pose. So we want to set the body up in alignment with support. So one thing you want to consider is that your head, chin tilted toward the chest, not chin higher than the forehead. Another thing you want to consider is your body temperature will drop as you hold this pose. I think we're going to be in the pose, check, 4 minutes. So over the course of 4 minutes, you will get cooler. So cover your body if needed. And then some of us have trouble keeping the eyes closed. So if that's the case for you, you can put anything really over the eyes as long as it's not too heavy. If you happen to own an eye pillow, it's a great prop to have to do the trick. And you're gonna lie down so that your feet are a little bit wider than your hips. And your arms are open in a way that your armpits can aerate. The inner arms don't touch the torso. If your lower back is uncomfortable, some days we have lower back nagging at us, put something under your knees like a rolled blanket, which will soothe your lower back. And then take a few more moments just to make those fine-tuned adjustments so that you feel you can settle, you don't have to shift or wiggle. And other than your blanket, it's best to not really be touching other things with your hands. Because the idea is to be pulling away from the outer world. This journey of yoga really is about moving in and in and in. We start with the physical body and we go from there. So once you're settled, close your eyes. Look toward your cheeks. Invite the facial skin to descend from your forehead to your chin. Letting those outer masks we all wear just fall away. Relaxing the mouth around the lips, but also inside the mouth. Releasing any tension along the brow line. Softening your throat. Softening the belly. Allowing the flesh of your legs to fall away from the bones. Breathing into the feet, the toes, between the toes, the arches of your feet, the heels, the ankles. And now just sensing your breath without altering the breath. Whatever your unconditioned breathing is, just observing it. So this pose is considered by BKSA and GAR the most challenging pose there is, because the mastery of this pose is a sustained state of presence. So just continue to track your attention with your breath, cultivating that art of sustained presence. And now drawing a deeper breath in, and from there releasing a fuller breath out. And if it feels good, repeating that deeper breath in, emptying the out breath completely. And then resuming your easiest breath and starting to wiggle your fingers, your toes. Gently move the head from side to side. Fold the arms in and bend the knees, stepping the feet onto the floor. Roll to your side. And when you get there, just remain on your side for a couple moments. Make sure your head has the support it needs. This is an important moment here because this is where we transition out of yoga back to reality. So reminding ourselves here that we can carry the lessons we learn on the mat into the rest of our days off the mat. So see if you can move from here to seated, just keeping yourself present and keeping the brain quiet, so not really taking any additional effort into it. And as you sit up nice and tall, you can join your hands in front of your heart and just take a moment with yourself to acknowledge just how you feel after this practice. And again, there's no wrong answers. There's no incorrect outcome. But do take the time to notice. And then bow to that. Bow to yourself on an exhale. Lower the chin toward the chest, the brain toward the heart. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. Right. Get out of my little nest here.